Let's talk about the Midland Leopards, and I have to go back to 1965, Stilton High Spire. I'm telling you right now, I've seen old 8mm footage of it, and they could jump out of the gym. People like Simmy Hill, obviously Norm Van Leer, and make no mistake about it, Michael Jordan is the GOAT. But before he got to Chicago, there was a guy who was there that eventually would go to the broadcast booth to call all of the action during those glory days with Michael and Scotty and the entire 1980s. What a run they had. But when I think of the Chicago Bulls, I think of Norm Van Leer. That team, 1965, in your thought process, the best of the best. We've talked about Ambridge, 67, Wysick, maybe a close second, some say better. But of all the teams, and the great ones in Beaver Falls, the ones that he has had, I've seen so many of them. Man, that's a really tough resume to beat.
You know, it is. I'll lead this by, I'm originally from Ambridge.
I know you are. I get that.
Say that. But, you know, Midland's, it's just not the 65 team. It's the body of work for Midland. That's what you got to look at. So starting at 65, going through 79, that body of work is pretty amazing. How many section championships in a row? We've got close to that in a row.
Yeah.
How many WPL championships? I think they have 8. We're at 5. 4 state championships. We're at 2. So we're trying to keep the legacy going. But as I look at Midland and their tradition and how unbelievable they were with all those players, it was the body. It was that they reloaded. They didn't rebuild. So Ricky McGlure graduates. Mike DiMaggio steps in. He leaves. Torino steps in, or vice versa. I don't know. You know, one Slappy after another, a Gomez, there was Green, there was all the guys you say, and somebody else stepped in. And it was a reloading process through the whole 70s. And coming to Midland was a disaster for 99.9% of the teams. We try to keep that way. This is a hard place for people to play. Aliquippa we lost one game in here. Aliquippa was our first one, and we've lost a couple last year. But so this is the tough place to play, and we try to make it that way. We hope tomorrow night is a tough place to play. But again, Rob, those great Midland teams were just not 1, 2, 3 here. It was a giant body of work, a 15-year span of greatness.
Eddie Okowski lived actually in New Brighton, where I grew up. I would see him in Mass from time to time. Very tall in stature, obviously his longtime assistant, Nick Alloy. I covered, when he was the head coach in East Liverpool, their games on the local radio. Nick was a tremendous basketball player in his own right. And Johnny Miller, my dear friend, I think the greatest high school basketball coach of all time, but this guy's definitely making a run at it. He has said how many times he loved coming to the Christmas tournament they used to have here because of the essence of what this gym stood for. Only because you're a lot smarter than I am when it comes to basketball history. How good was Hank Kuzma, and what made him good?
He showed up for 2 years and won more games than I think you were allowed to win.
How's
so
that
good
possible?
He was. And then
did he go to Farrell?
Yes. Okay. Yes, and God gave him some talent, but he made them to adhere to what it was a little different back then. Kids adhered to what your system was and what you would do. And they all bought in. I mean, I watched those old 8mm. Those kids had shirts and ties on, and
blazers,
perfect blazers. And if they weren't at practice at 4 o'clock,
they
were out. You were out of the gym. Now I'm happy the kids get here at 4. We're okay with that. But it's a new world. We understand that now. But he was an unbelievable basketball mind that I think a lot of his stuff wore off on Coach Okowski.
Right.
Same guy, different kind of persona and attitude, but the same kind of disciplinarian, same kind of offenses, same kind of things they did, and the same kind of success. Coach Kuzma's was in a small little capsules. Coach Okowski's was in a large body.
Well, and people stay with him for a long time. Look at Nick Alloy, the legacy, and he really was a disciplinarian too.
Correct, same thing. And he took over for
the
last basketball coach.
Right, and then he went to East Liverpool
and
had huge success there.
Midland's last team lost to the state championship. Made it to the state championship in '84, but lost there. So their success continued all the way through.
All right, tomorrow night radio, 6 o'clock pregame, Rick Dayton tip-off, 7:30, Josh Roundtree. As they're listening tomorrow night, what would your message be to that radio audience who may be listening to a broadcast from this historic place for the very first time?
You should buckle up, and watching a game here should give you goosebumps if you're a basketball fan. It should make you revert back to, oh my God, good old days when fouls were fouls and points were points and players were players. And remember that nostalgia and give you goosebumps to what you're going to see. because it's going to be a battle, and it'll be something that's worthy of the Midland Gymnasium.
Yeah, and you'll be able to actually see that come to life through the radio. And
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's
I
what
know exactly what you meant. But as I've said for the longest time, radio is theater of the mind, and certain things that just really work. And I did it for 20 years, play-by-play. And I did some games here, and I saw some of the greatest coaches ever: Susie McConnell Serio, Johnny Miller, many of them, Nick Alloy here, Mike Smianik during his days at Aliquippa. So it just goes on and on and on. But the great thing about this, and as an announcer I felt it, and as a fan I have felt it, and you will hear it tomorrow night, you can feel the energy. And if you're watching a game here, if you're lucky enough, there's such an up close and personal attitude for the fans here. They really get close up to where they feel the action literally pounding on their chest. It's a thrill a minute. You're going to love it, and I hope that you'll tune in tomorrow night. Rick Dayton pregame at 6, tip-off with Josh Roundtree at 7:30. We're going to be doing basketball on Friday nights for the next few months, and I hope that you plug in. As we like to say, nobody loves high school sports more than we do at Odyssey 100.1 FM, AM 1020, KDK. And to all of my friends in Midland, much love, and thank you once again for letting me come to truly one of the best little places in the world, Midland, Pennsylvania. On behalf of the coach and everyone here at Lincoln Park, good night, everybody.